You're listening to the Primal Happiness Show, a podcast dedicated to helping you thrive in this crazy modern world. Every Tuesday, we explore the nature of how our minds really work, what exactly the human animal requires to thrive, and how we can live happier and more fulfilling lives. If you're new here and haven't yet taken our free class, then there's no better place to get a jump start on reclaiming your primal happiness. It's where we'll guide you step by step through our antidote to today's modern world. Simply head on over to primalhappiness.co/antidote to get the free class and discover how to thrive without having to move to a planet that's not so crazy as ours. But now, your host, Lian Tyler.
Hello, my beautiful people. A huge warm welcome back to the show. In today's crazy modern world, men and women are living shallow, disconnected, and unfulfilling lives. So we created the path for those who are ready to reclaim their wildness and actualize their deepest gifts. And the next way you can walk that path is by joining Waking the Wild Masculine, coming later this month. A man's true power is alchemized through the depth of his purpose and the degree to which he has sovereignty over the direction of his life. However, almost all men today lack the guidance, support, and initiation to create that purpose and sovereignty, which is why Jonathan's been called to lead another potent circle of men through a journey of wild masculine reclamation, including a vision quest. There are now just a couple of spaces left, so if you are feeling the call, go to primalhappiness.co/WTWM to discover more about Waking the Wild Masculine and to claim your place in Sacred Circle. And now, onto this week's show. It is with the wonderful William Whitecloud back for the second time. William is a best-selling author and creative development trainer. His famous publications include The Magician's Way, The Last Shaman, and Secrets of Natural Success, all of which I highly recommend. Through the pandemic, he made his foundational 5-day training, Create Your Destiny, which he made available for free as a 5-week online course. He is a founder and chairman of Natural Success, which is a training and mentoring provider. He now resides in Santa Monica, California, where he enjoys time with his family, writing, and at the same time developing movies. In this show, kind of a part 2 to the last show, we went deeper into the power of focus, the 2 different ways that fear shows up and pulls your focus away from where you want it, and how to continue to be a powerful creator even when circumstances are creating limitations, such as during the last 18 months. Let's dive in. Hello, William. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me back. I usually only come back to apologize the second time.
Honestly, it's my pleasure. We've already been laughing so much to the point where I was having to gather myself before we could start recording. In fact, I'm going to ask you to share with listeners what we were just laughing about your glasses, because it's too good for them to miss.
Well, last time we had a chat, you took personally my comment about lockdown bodies. You thought it was a reference to yourself, or you made it about yourself. And actually it was not. And I was actually thinking of myself. And I was just saying to you when we came on now that talking about that, because you reminded me, and I said, before lockdown, these glasses used to look, they were oversized on me like Elton John glasses. And now they just look normal size. And it's not because the glasses have shrunk. I got this moon face now.
I took that as your apology, actually, William. Just making sure I knew it wasn't my lockdown body you were talking about. Well, actually, a lockdown body is kind of a good segue into part of what we're going to talk about. So we're going to, who knows where we'll go, but we're going to start out by talking more about focus. And as I was saying, we touched on this last time. The way that you talk about focus, I think because of the simplicity of it, it makes it so powerful to kind of keep coming back to as a way to remember to focus, how our focus gets pulled away. So I would love to spend more time talking about focus. And then in particular, we were just talking about how at the moment with restrictions, lockdown, inability to travel, all the rest of it, how being magicians, being creators, retaining our focus on what we actually want is more challenged than ever. I mean, we're always going to have challenges. We're always going to have fear pulling us away. But at the moment, that's going to be even more compelling than ever. So that's what we're going to explore.
Yeah.
But I would like to start with you just, I guess, sharing your, I don't know the word's definition, but I guess understanding way of talking about focus and how that works, how we get pulled away from it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the very foundational premise, possibly, of the work that I, you know, subscribe to, that I live myself and support others in, we call it Alchemy Magic. We've got all kinds of names for it. The creative orientation. But it's a, you know, it's a way of living whereby we experience ourselves as the predominant creative force in our lives, which means that what eventuates in our lives is what we decide, what we determine, rather than our circumstances and our problems and our, you know, inherited genetics or whatever you would go, well, that's what's caused my life to, you know, result in this way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being the predominant creative force in your own life, and that's our way of life. And as I said, the sort of foundational premise, you could say, I think, is that your focus creates your reality. That what you put your focus on is what is going to turn out in your life. And if you look at your life, or anyone looks at their life and goes, well, this is how it is. Well, you know, it's a result of what you're focused on. It shows you what you're focused on. If you tell me what's happening in your life, I'll tell you what you're focused on, because your focus creates your reality. And you know, it's quite a subject. It's quite a big subject, you see, because our premise also further to that is that you create your own reality. But how, who, where, what? And our premise is that your subconscious, it's your consciousness, and it's a part of consciousness that we don't really know what it is. We don't know where it is, what it is, but we have a premise for it, and we call it a subconscious. And it's sort of the hidden, unknown, feminine part of consciousness that is our creative spirit, as it were. It's our creative, you know, animating creative principle, creative force, and it's the subconscious. And our premise is that your subconscious creates your reality, and it does so based on what you pay attention to, what your focus is on, right? And so we see the proof of that. I've been doing this, living this way, doing this work, teaching it, practicing it, coaching thousands of people intimately, long term. You know, they say that science is you know, the observation of something. You know, a serious observation of something. And so if science is the serious observation of something, and you know, learning from observation, like, you know, you do a test of 100 people on something and see what the results are, and you go, well, that's scientific, you know, there it was objectively observed, and that. And so in that way, although I'm not credentialed, I'm a scientist, because I have observed, you know, I have observed people creating for a long time, you know, very closely, very objectively. And there's no doubt that people's focus creates their reality. We you know, we have the evidence of that. And so, you know, what you put your attention on and intend and formally inform your subconscious about what you want to manifest, what you want to create, will happen. Just I've got lots of examples of this, but just the other day, an ex-client called me. They coached with me for many years, and they haven't coached with me for about a year or so. And they asked to have a conversation with me. And the way they framed the request, it sounded like they want to sell me something. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I gave them some time, and then, okay, well, right, I'll give them some time and see what they got to say. And actually, it turned out they didn't want to sell me anything. They just wanted to tell me what they had created now up to this point in their life, in spite of the pandemic, which has caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. But I remember when we were working together and working on this person's choices, and where we ended up, what we ended up focusing them on. I think if anyone saw those choices that we in the end had formulated for this person, they would have thought that she and I were smoking crack, that these choices were just so crazy, so far out. And she said, I've created it all. It's all manifested. Although even she said she at times thought she had been smoking crack, when she looked at her choices that, but they've all manifested, right? They've all manifested. And just amazingly, things came together in ways that she never understood, expected, whatever. And, even one component of it, there was a technology component which she knows nothing about, but she found someone to do it. And that person was so impressed with it that they bought 30% of the company now, and they now own 30% of this thing that's happening. And it's just an incredible creation, you see. And it's a function of focus, And one of the things about focus is, and it's only one of the powers of focus, but you see, creativity can be defined as the ability to make connections that aren't normally made. When you look at a great piece of art that people go, wow, he's a creator, or she's a creator, she's so creative. Well, you think about what they mean by that. That person, they go, wow, they're so creative. They're such a great photographer. Well, that person, takes photographs in a way that they reveal aspects of what's being looked at in a way that nobody else would. They see angles and whatever, that ways of presenting this that nobody else would. They're creative. So creativity is the ability to make connections that aren't normally made. And when you focus on something, you see what you do when you focus on something, what happens then is your subconscious starts connecting dots that aren't normally connected and present them to you. Just like this person I told you called me up to tell me that they've created this, kind of crackhead vision, crackhead impossible fantasy vision has actually come to light because the dots came together. They all pulled together, see.
Oh, wow, I love
that. Enabled her now to create that, because in our minds there's this end result. You get, it's true for me to create this, and you have this vision and you have this dream and you follow it through, but it may seem like a crackhead fantasy because from your understanding you don't know the dots, you don't know how to connect them, you don't know where they connect, you don't even know where the dots are. But by remaining focused, those dots start appearing. They start connecting, and the end result starts manifesting, right? And so then it comes together, and then we call it magic. It's like, oh wow, look at that! This is magic. And you see, magic is like when you watch stage magic. Something comes out of nowhere. I love magic. There's a magic castle here in LA. And I go there a lot. And when I go to Las Vegas, I go and see David Copperfield and all of these people. And that's the whole thing. That's what magic is, right? It's like things appear out of nowhere, right? But as we know, those things were always there. But what wasn't there was the ability to see them, but they were there, right? And the magician distracted us or hid it or whatever, so we couldn't see it. So, but it's there. It's there. It's not actually come out of thin air. And these dots and these possibilities and all that, they're there. And focus brings them together. Focus pulls them all together, right? So focus is a very powerful force. It's an incredibly powerful force because it identifies to your subconscious what you want to create, and then your subconscious goes to work on connecting the dots to make that happen, to bring it into being, you see. But the thing about that is, I'll just say this very quickly, is that focus is a double-edged sword, because mostly you have, it's a skill. True focus is a skill, because mostly my promise to you is that for the vast majority of people, what they think they're focused on, they're not focused on, right? So for instance, I'll give you an example, right? So they go, I want a ton of money. So and they go, look, I've even had people, you know, when the law of attraction was really big 10 years ago, and I first came to America, I used to get hell on talkback radio. You know, I did a lot of it. I actually had audiences. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. One radio show I spoke on alone, coast to coast, had a listenership of 20 million people, right? So I spoke to millions of people, right? Millions, yeah, coast to coast. Biggest, it's the third biggest show in the world, including TV shows, right? So, but it's radio, you know. And so I spoke to a lot of people, and a lot of it was talkback, and I got hell because people heard me talk and they thought I'm law of attraction, you see. And they said, listen here, you know, I'm not stupid, you know, and I'm doing what you people tell me to do. I'm visualizing it. I can smell it. I can see it, and it's not happening. In fact, it's getting worse and all that, right? You know, and so it's like, why is that the case? If what you focus on manifests, why did the whole world get told that, tried it, and it didn't work? Because what you think you're focused on is likely not what you actually focused on. What you think you're focused on isn't likely what you focused on. Because like going back to that ton of money, which a lot of people on those callback things was money and relationships mostly, you know, and some health. You know, money was the biggest, especially in America. It's money. It's like, I'm imagining that money. I can, you know, I take money every day and I put it on my nose and I smell it and I see it. And I'm getting poorer. I got lost my job. Never mind that I'm getting more money, you know, and all that. The irate, people really irate, you know. And you see, the thing is, what they don't understand is that your subconscious isn't dumb. It sees the whole spectrum of your consciousness at once, right? And it knows what's your motivation for that money. Let's say financial insecurity, right? And goes, okay, so we're financially insecure. I get it. I get it, right? And every time you smell that money and visualize it, it's just getting, yes, we're financially insecure. That's the message it's getting.
Yeah.
And it's creating more of it. Or if the person that's like desperate for love, you know, once that soulmate goes to psychics to find out where their soulmate is, all that, right? Visualizes a soulmate, you know. I knew someone like that. She used to say to you, oh, you know, I visualize it. And how I visualize it, I visualize this cliff and there are these vines growing up, and these two vines grow together and they entwine. And that's me and my soulmate. And she was the loneliest person I ever knew. Sorry to say, you know, sadly, yeah, I'm really, you know, because she was desperate, right? And that's what the subconscious gets. It's like, you see, so in a way, your subconscious doesn't look at what you're looking at with your eyes. I'm looking at a few bottles of wine there, interestingly, right? So it doesn't look at what you see it now. It doesn't look at what you're looking at with your eyes. It's kind of really looking at the energy with which you're looking at. It's looking at your motivation. It's going, oh, okay. And see, because that's where the energy is. It's not really in you having a lot of money. The energy is in your financial insecurity, or it's not really in having a soulmate. It's in your loneliness. It's in your alien sense of alienation and all of that, right? And then it's just going to create more of that. And you can be sure, that your focus is creating your reality. So focus, true focus, masterful focus is a very important, if you want to create, if you want to be the predominant creative force in your life, well, then you better get jiggy with your focus and how it creates reality, and masterful at that, and learn actually how focus works and how to focus properly, so that your subconscious gets, okay, yes, that is what I want. A brand new spanking car with nice leather seats and is what you want. That is what you want. That's the message that it gets. Not that you're a loser, because it can get that message. Right?
So can I ask, it's almost like a puzzle in itself, in that there is that conscious focus, which is clearly important, and there's what's going on as subconscious. And it sounds like for most people, certainly when they start this work, those two are not going to be matching. Even if they think they're focusing on something, actually the subconscious is potentially doing the opposite.
Absolutely.
How does that match happen? How do we start to get the match between what we actually want our focus to be on and where our subconscious is actually looking somewhere else?
I just laughed. I never mind why I laughed. Here's the thing, you see, compensating tendency. What gives us our sense of self? Like you sit there and you go, I'm Lian, and I'm Satyan, I'm William, and we really experience ourselves as who we are, and as individuals with histories and a sense of containment within these bodies, and a makeup and all that, and we really experience that as real, when it's not. It's just totally manufactured. When someone's born, when someone's born, this is scientific. They don't know that they're not everything in the universe. They don't know that. They don't know they're not their mother. They don't know they're not the hospital ward or the hot tub they're born in, or whatever, like however it is. They don't know. That has to be manufactured. Your individual sense of existence has to be manufactured. You've got to develop a sense of self. And how you develop a sense of self and a sense of separation and individual existence is through definition. William Blake was onto that long ago. When he wrote, he existed at the same time. The greatest alchemist of all time existed at the same time as the greatest fundamentalist, of all time. Newton and William Blake. And William Blake wrote a letter that is in a museum somewhere, wrote a letter to Newton and said, you scientists are destroying the soul of the world, because you see, the soul it's all one, and you're killing it because you're cutting it up into little pieces by examining everything and giving everything names, and that's killing it, right? And he's right. In that sense, and that's how we create our separation. We develop definitions about ourselves, others, and the world, and that really is a form of belief. And there you go. We end up with a sense of ourselves, but the side effect of that is it's based on beliefs that aren't true. They're beliefs of separation. They're beliefs of limitation, of incompleteness, And they're horrible beliefs if you really examine them. They're like, sorry to say, that you're worthless, that you don't belong here. You're not part of, like you're not from this planet. The belief, not belonging. It sounds innocuous, but my promise to you, if you understand it, if you go into it and you understand not belonging, it means you're not from this planet, right? That you or that you're not safe, or that you're powerless. There are all these different beliefs. Basically, they're saying you're unviable. So unconsciously, your drive is to make up for that. It's called compensating tendency, compensating logic. So you just think it's normal. You just think these things that you want are normal. Your drive to get attention, your drive for achievement and all that, you just think, yeah, well, that's my makeup. It's actually not. It's you compensating. And so when you give a sort of a pretty unconscious person, a list, a blank piece of paper, and say, write down everything you want now. We're going to make up your goals and all that. You better bet your ass they're going to write down a whole list of compensating tendencies down there. They're going to write down a list of compensations, not what they truly want. And then they're going to start making those choices. They're going to say them to themselves every day. And the subconscious is going to get, all right, so that's how we incomplete. I get it. So you have to have an ability, self-awareness. You have to know, you have to be able to separate your heart from your identity. And when I talk about the heart, I'm not talking about a warm, fuzzy notion of that. I'm talking about the part of consciousness, your part, the part of your consciousness that is connected to everything through time and space, your greatest self, your genius, your authentic identity, your authentic personality and self. And you've got to ask that part of yourself, what do you truly want? Because the answers from there aren't compensating. They are true, true end results, right?
Yeah.
That aren't compensating for anything. And when the subconscious gets pointed to those, it goes, oh, okay, right. Let's create that. See, nothing opposes that. It's surprisingly effortless to create what you love, to create what truly matters to you. It's very difficult to create what you're compensating for, because you're just reinforcing to your subconscious that you haven't got it, that you're limited in that way, right? And so you get this cycle of belief creates reality, reinforces belief. That's the average cycle that an average person is in. And so when, personal development actually hurts them, harms that person when they come to it, because personal development, just is shallow, I think, right? By and large. And just like, oh, well, here, you create this. And then you see then the person struggles to get it. And they go, oh, well, you need fixing, you need healing. So now, we've got to work on, and that just puts more energy into your identity. And it's just a massive trap, And people, I think now, slowly but surely, and it's quickening, the world's waking up to that whole old school person development, the idea of you being broken. You're not broken. You're fine. Actually, you have an idea of brokenness. You see, Stephen Pressfield, who's a brilliant writer, filmmaker, and he's a writing teacher, and I just love him, as do anyone who follows him. He's just amazing. And he hates personal development, and rightly so, in the way that he hates it. But he does. He loathes it. He loathes it, right? And he says, listen here, the part of you, because he's a writing teacher, so he says the part of you that you write from, which means that you create from, anything that you manifest houses from, that you manifest businesses from, that you write books from, or movie scripts from, that part of you is unscratched, undented, undiminished, through all time and space. It's a beautiful sphere of light that cannot be harmed in any way and is unharmed. And that's what you create from. Yeah, you as a human and your personality and your experiences, okay, Fair enough. That can be damaged. Let's just say that, right? I think, but that's not what you create from. So, that's a separate issue, right? But when you're creating, you create from wholeness, you see. And so, sorry to sort of take this tangent in that, but it's if you want the answer, it's not a quick few lines and sentences and easy answer. This is what you must know to create masterfully. If you want to be the predominant creative force in your own life, if that's not what you want, then fine. There's other things for you, and I respect that. I really do. But if you want to be the predominant creative force in your own life and a masterful creator and manifester, well, then you've got to know how your focus creates reality, and the awareness that you have to have of what you're focused on. Are you focused on your identity, or are you focused on true end results? You see?
I really love that, and it was a very worthwhile tangent. It's brought to mind something that I've noticed more and more over the last year or so in particular, which is the things that I desire that are from heart or from soul are often actually more of a threat to my identity, as in they're going to cost me in some way that isn't like necessarily that convenient or easy, or isn't likely to get me approval, and it's become almost like a litmus test. Like, is this just going to be like an almighty nightmare to do? It is, and yet somehow it still feels like the thing I need to do. It's coming from love, despite the fact this makes no flipping sense. It's like it actually like smashes my identity to pieces doing this, and it's kind of become one of those like, yeah, it's a pretty good sign it's from heart.
Well, I mean, that can be the case. It doesn't have to be the case, because if you really develop your intuition, you can kind of identify what you truly want in that sort of tension-free. But you better believe that your ego, can be the most brilliant thing that ever existed. And if it is for your heart, then it is going to be. Your ego is not going to be happy with it, right? Because you see, why haven't we got everything we'd love already? Because it's very easy to create it, right? Actually, for our subconscious, for our creative spirit, our natural ability, whatever you want to call it, it's very easy to create anything. So it could easily create all that we dream of. So why don't we have that? Because the ego has an idea of where it gets its energy from. You see, it's like it believes that there are conditions that must exist and conditions that must be absent. And it's focused on maintaining those conditions. Like you mentioned one, it's like, oh, this is approval, like this is a condition that must exist. I must get a lot of approval and thing. Let's just use an example that's a really true example. This exists. Like I meet people like this. Maybe I'm one myself. It's like, well, I could be powerful and just have what I want. That'd be nice, hey? I could just be super powerful, be my powerful self, and just easily have what I want. Says the ego, but then you wouldn't have approval, because being powerful and having approval is different, because an approval seeker has to give their power away a lot, right? Have to give their power away a lot. So me and being powerful are inconsistent. I would rather have approval than my power.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom. One of the greatest successes I've ever had with a client, honestly, when I met this person, was in London, and they worked out of, it was near the London Bridge, was where the south bank of the London Bridge, I think. There was like a little row of terrace houses, and in one of those was their office. I don't know, they had 6 or 8 people, right? And they were doing well and all that. And started coaching them. And 2 years later, they had a conference in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands for their staff convention meeting, and they had to take the staff photo from the air because the staff filled up a football field.
Wow.
So they'd grown from, you know, a terrace house to a staff all over Europe that filled up a football field in 2 years, right? Now with this person, they were very clever and they had business consultants and all of that. But they wouldn't let themselves unconsciously, not consciously, unconsciously, they wouldn't let themselves be powerful and really go for it and really, you know, just unleash their creativity and all of that. Because guess what? Exactly that. Exactly the example we're using now is, well, if I'm powerful like that, their thing actually was people are going to hate me. It wasn't only I'd lose approval, I'd actually be hated on for having that kind of power and self-determination, all that. Well, you know, and so when they saw that and realized how infantile and ridiculous that was, you know, by any way that we looked at it, it's like, okay, well, that story can go now. And then, and that was a little while ago. I mean, they've even moved on since then. It's even gone beyond that football field story, right? No, really. That you know, and so you see, this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. If you use that person as an example, he could be really successful, and it was proved in 2 years like that. He just created phenomenal success. That was always in him. He could always have that, but his ego goes, "Oh, we don't want that." Oh, you see.
Oh, that's a fabulous example. So I'm conscious of time and realizing we haven't even touched on part of what we were talking about in terms of continuing to create in a time like this. But before we go there, hopefully we'll have time. It feels to me that you could look at focus at 2 levels. So there's that focus as in, is what we're focusing on really what we're focusing on, or is it actually a focus on what we haven't got, the insecurities, kind of trying to shore up the identity? And then at the point where we are clear that what we're focusing on is from the heart, we then have that kind of still a kind of pull from fear that takes us away from that. So it feels like that happens at 2 different levels.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's the sort of fundamental level is the choice between what you love and what you fear, you know, focusing on what you truly love and actually in fact focusing on what you fear. If you rise above that and, you know, now manage to be at least choosing from your heart and directing yourself from your heart and pointing yourself to what you want from your heart, as you go towards that, your ego is still going to come in and go, yeah, but you know, like you're in danger now because you're going towards this incomplete and you need to complete yourself, you see, and then you're going to experience conflict. You're going to experience inner conflict, you know, you're going to in some form of fear or frustration, anger, you know, what confusion, anything, right? And that's just a fact of life, right? And you see, it's really interesting, that one, because there are people, and generally, I don't want to, you know, make rules here and that, but generally you are going to get this from sort of Eastern spiritualities, which are sort of more feminine, and Western ones are more masculine, you know. So you're going to get this thing of, oh, well, wanting things is bad and creating things is bad. And I met a very top monk over here, Buddhist monk in LA, who's a guru to, you know, very prominent people, wealthy and celebrities and all that. One of those gurus, right? And I was at a party, and that the host's guru And you know, all these people is really funny because there's people like, you know, doing cocaine in the bathroom, and there's a spiritual guru in the middle of it all in his robes and all that, right? You know, that's LA for you, you see. And so he got to talking to me, and he was horrified at what I did. He was he straight out told me that I was an evil person, that I help people get what they want. I said,
Wow.
why am I evil? Why is getting what you want? You know, he said, because desire and wanting things and ambition makes you unhappy.
Mm.
And he's right. But it's half wisdom. It's only half wisdom.
Mm.
He's right, because when you go for things, your ego is going to come in and create inner conflict. It's going to make you unhappy in a way. It's going to make you fearful. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you angry. It's going to frustrate you. But you see, that's just your ego telling you why it believes you can't have what you're going for, or why it's difficult to have what you're going for, right? So it's no longer evil and no longer a problem if on the way you can have a conversation with your ego and go, what's the problem? And it tells you. And you go, oh, okay, no, but that's not a problem. You see, then you can disabuse it of that notion that it's a problem. It just wants to have a conversation with you. See, and what people don't know is their ego just wants to have that's what that Buddhist monk doesn't know. He knows that it brings up shit for you, but he doesn't know it's just your ego wanting to have a conversation with you about that, to tell you about the danger. It's just like my dog. She runs to this window here and barks when the mailman comes or whatever thing. She just wants me to know that something's going on here. And if I come and say, okay, Lulu, it's all right, it's just the postman, her bristles go down, she backs down, she wags her tail, and she's done her job. That's your ego for you, right? It just wants you to know. And you see, what people don't know is that's happening, right? And so they just try and plow on. They go, well, what did I learn? You know, I must go into state and, you know, apply massive action and, you know, and your ego goes, they're not listening. I'll have to intensify the pain. Or you see, so that's why as creators in the creative orientation, we love conflict. We do. First of all, tension is a creative force, but also inner tension, inner conflict, in that kind of, you know, psychological tension, inner conflict is the best tool for self-awareness, because when stuff comes up for you, think, it's when you can deconstruct it, because normally you don't know it's there. But implicit in all of your inner conflict is everything your ego believes about you, the world, others, the undertaking, your thing, and you can deconstruct it and ask your ego, well, okay, what? Tell me.
Yeah.
How are you seeing this? What's the problem? And you know, I promise you, when you do this, you will realize that the ego's point of view is ridiculous. You know, like you won't, as long as you feel unworthy or feel unsafe through fear and feel powerless through anger and all that, you will identify with all of that. But if you look into it and you know, unpack it, you can't. You just realize that what the ego is saying is ridiculous. It's absurd. You can't go along with it. And so you're no longer identified with it. And also your ego is happy that you heard it out.
Yeah.
It just needed you to hear it out. And you also needed to hear it out, to hear, okay, well, that's an absurd proposition. It's like crazy, you know, and that's what I say. That like, I coach people day in and day out. And a lot of what I'm doing is helping, and I just, you know, helping them with this. And it's like, does that make sense to you? No. Is that logical? No. Where's that coming from? No. Childhood. You know, it's like, is your 2-year-old a good guide for what you're undertaking now? No. You see, and then the person's energies can, you know, be more strongly applied to, you know, the energies can, you know, the energy can more comprehensively be directed to what you're actually creating and focus, focus properly, and thereby have a more powerful creative process, right? And end result and everything. So that's what you've got to know, is that when if I can sum it up, if you don't mind, is when your starting point to decide what you want has to be informed. Is it love or is it fear? And okay, now well, if it's love, you're screwed to start. I mean, if it's fear, you're screwed to start with, right? But if it's love, okay, now you've got a good chance, right? But still, your ego is going to come in and impress on you, And if you're unconscious, you're just doggedly going to try and persist, and usually your ego will win, because you can't beat your ego, It not doggedly, not through force, because it will just do what it has to do. And what it'll do, it'll increase the intensity of the tension till it's stress, and stress will defeat everybody every time. Can I just say this very quickly? In filmmaking, which I know a lot about, in filmmaking, the script writer always makes the opponent stronger than the hero. The opponent is always stronger than the hero, right? And that is psychologically correct, because your ego, Darth Vader or whoever, that you see in movies that symbolizes the ego, they're always stronger than the hero. The hero cannot defeat those people with brute force. They have to do it through creativity, right? Watch any movie. The opponent is stronger than the hero. It creates for drama. It makes things dramatic, right? Dramatic tension, but it's psychologically accurate as well. Your ego is stronger than your creator. You can't defeat it with brute strength. You have to do it creatively, And so, when you go for something, you're going to be opposed. The only thing opposing you is your own identity. If it's out there, it's just mirrored out there. It's not out there. It's in you every time. And if you have the wisdom and the ability in that to look at what's going on, you can neutralize it, right?
Oh, I love what you said there. And what popped into my mind just before you talked about your dog, I was thinking, it's not dissimilar to my children. Like, a lot of the time when they're talking about what they're worried about, they really actually want to be able to run it by me hear them, and then actually me show them why what they're worried about isn't going to happen. And I was thinking, it's exactly, and as you say, it's actually a young part of us. So it's no wonder it has that kind of childlike, oh my goodness, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Please, mummy, tell me it's not going to happen. And just like my children wouldn't just stop if I ignored them, they would keep going on, quite understandably. So we're basically out of time, but let's attempt to.
Sorry to use up all your time. Yeah. jabbering away as I do.
It's all good. It's all good. So I'm going to ask a question that I think we can neatly then say that we've managed to talk about both parts that we plan to talk about. So in these current circumstances, everything that's been going on with COVID, there are very real limitations within our circumstances, like way more compelling than typically is the case. It's not to say there aren't ever circumstances, but right now, most people are going to find there's ways their circumstances have changed that do appear to be fixed and do appear to have these limitations that ego is then going to be saying, well, of course you can't do that because this is going on. So I'd just love to hear your thoughts, experience on continuing to be a creator in times like this, when it feels as though there's very real things that the ego is going to say, it's impossible because this is happening, and look on the news, it's telling you it's happening. This isn't me just making it up.
Yeah. I mean, they're very real things happening. And, they're different than it was before. I just had dinner with someone the other night, just a couple of nights ago, I had dinner with someone with whom I've traveled around the world a lot for many years. They've accompanied me on many travels and many adventures. And, we were just talking about how we thought that was just normal and would never end. We never imagined that we would have restrictions. Like, as an Australian citizen myself, I never imagined that my government would tell me if I go back to Australia, I'm not allowed to leave the country. Right? Like it's any business of theirs. I'm not going to get into all of that, but I just never believed that. They just say, all of you citizens have to stay in this country while this is going on. It's like, wow, we have to, we just never ever imagined something like this. So there's, it's different times, huh? And different realities. It's understandably exercising us all of us. None of us are immune from being exercised, talking about immunity. None of us are immune from being exercised by this, because our freedoms are being curtailed like we never knew and expected. And also our lives are being threatened, real or imagined, but everyone's, you see, because people are going, well, the virus is going to kill me. And then the other people are going, no, it's not. The vaccine's going to kill me. Everyone's threatened in their own way, right? So it's unprecedented, really, for us in our times, in our society, because don't forget, there are parts of the world, huge parts of the world, who have been living with horrors while we've been swanning around as well, But for us, I'm talking, I think you and me and us Westerners and Australians and Americans and what have you. So there's different times, right? But it's just circumstances. It's just circumstances. And if I can be honest, it's not really any different when there's not a pandemic going on, because either you're living in a world where you're subject to circumstances, and they're always circumstances, and your mind will always create circumstances, always create conditions, always create problems, always create obstacles, all of that, always. And if you're of the mind, that circumstances don't matter, and you're the creative force in your own life, then you're free of circumstances now and anytime, now and anytime, and you see, the thing is, the way I see it, I think it's the right way to see it, is that we have a highest good. There's a highest good for us in life, and there's a highest good for everything that we're a part of. And that highest good, no matter what, is always being put together by our higher nature, whatever you want to see that as and call that as, right? It's actually always being put together. The thing about that idea, that premise, that you have a highest good, that everything that you're part of actually has a highest good, and that is always being worked towards beyond your even self-conscious awareness and understanding, but it is. And the way you participate in that is you're guided, you receive guidance in relation to that, and you follow that guidance, and that makes things work out in non-pandemic times and in pandemic times. And that's what I see. I'm associated with a lot of creators, myself and a lot of people, and we're guided. We understand that, and we live by that principle, and we follow, we allow, we live in a way where we don't react to the circumstance, that we're present, and we receive our truth, and we follow that regardless of the noise all around us. And we're guided, we're navigated. That's what we're doing. We're navigators, and we're navigating our way through things. And before pandemic, we were navigated to wonders. And during pandemic, we're navigated to wonders. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, you know, our highest good is always possible. Like you and I were talking before we got on air officially here, and we're talking about like how I felt so restricted after being traveling around the world every month, going somewhere different in the world every month and thing, and now not. But actually, my highest good and the highest good of what I'm a part of is thriving. Really. That's not limited. I can participate in wonders. I just have to change my thinking. I'd have to go to the Grand Canyon, which I've never been to. Go and visit my friends in Hawaii. Go in California, where I live, is just fecund with parks of forests and deserts, and just get out into that. Go down to Sedona in Arizona, whatever. Right? There's nothing limiting me. Actually, in truth, stopping me. Nothing curtailing my highest good. Only me can curtail that. If I'm in reaction, fighting against circumstances, putting my attention where it actually doesn't belong, right? And there it is, you see. There it is. It's like, what's true for us to be focused on? And it's not, as many people, even many people I love, get caught up in the externals, and in reaction to that. All I think that this time calls on us to do is be more present, more focused than ever, asking ourselves more than ever, right? Being guided, paying attention to that guidance more than ever. My heroes, my creative heroes, that everyone's got their heroes. I know it's a bit infantile, but I have my heroes, and like Gurdjieff, one of my heroes, a creative master who, lived through civil wars in Russia, the Russian Civil War, which coincided with World War I. And he lived in those Fallujah, Aleppo, the horrors of our time. He was living through that, right? But if you read his story and accounts of him, he was thriving through all of that. He navigated that like amazingly. And him and the people that he, everything that he was a part of, the people that were around him and that, under his protection and all that, in the middle of that carnage, they thrived. They created stuff. They did archaeological expeditions and, totally uninterfered with, right? Just they weaved their way through it, and so I just go, well, does this compare to what Gurdjieff went through? No, then shut up, stop crying.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I also love the way that you've spoken about it, not in terms of bypassing the circumstances, if like none of it exists, but like playing with it, using it as material to create with and be in relationship to, and not let it dictate, but equally not pretend it doesn't exist at all. It's just different circumstances.
No. When you're a creator in the way that we are, and you apply alchemy, the principles of alchemy, and create in that way, circumstances, there's no bypassing, because you use the current reality as a creative ingredient to set up structural, creative tension that then, compels the connection of the dots and the navigation and all of that. So far from it, far from bypassing, if you are a powerful creator, you embrace, you don't like it. You don't go, wow, that's nice that it's, this horrible, condition exists, or that I'm, obstructed in this way. Yeah, you don't do that. You allow yourself to be as upset about as anyone, but you embrace it, because it's a raw material of your creativity, so there's just absolutely no bypassing in creating, not in
Yeah.
empowered creating.
No, I really love that. And we did it. I feel like we managed to cover both parts.
Wow, there you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please let listeners know where they can find out more about you and all your glorious creations.
Well, from my website, which is actually technically naturalsuccessacademy.com, but Googling William Whitecloud will take you there, right? And can I mention that 5-week course is coming up? We call it 6 weeks, but it's actually 6 webinars over 5 weeks. But it's my foundational creative development course called Create Your Destiny, with supporting video tutorials, Zoom meetings, getting together to practice the work, webinars to assimilate all that. It's a completely thorough course, and it's coming up in September. I don't know if this will air before then.
Tell me what date in September, and we'll do what we can to get it out before then.
Well, it depends. I think in Europe it's mid-September, and in Australia, for the Australian region, the Pacific region, it's towards the end of September. But the point is that it's free. We've been putting this on all the way through the pandemic. And so if you go to my website and you subscribe to my newsletter, opt in for the newsletter, then you'll be informed, and you'll get the link and all of that. And I can assure everyone listening, I'm not a spammer. We're not a spammer. We're too busy to be selling people things. I really mean that. People actually contact us asking us why they can't find out about the work we're doing. It's because we're just too busy to even promote it, right? But this Create Your Destiny is the foundation of what we've been talking about today, empowers you in the foundation of what we've been talking about today. And it's free. It's a service that we've provided from the very beginning of the pandemic. About 12,000 people have signed up, and not everyone who signs up for an online course goes through it, but most do. Which is remarkable in the online sort of world, But because it's really good, very empowering, and get such good reports, not just hearing about lives that have been changed by people doing it, but families and even communities, and so I just highly recommend people get on board. It's free.
I've actually had several friends do it and rave about it. So
well, thank you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, it is. It's really good, and it's like based on a serious understanding and ability of creating, as we have discussed here. It's not like a flaky realm of it. It's very, very solid. So thanks for letting me say that. I hope you don't cut that out now.
Of course not. No. I love joining people with other people. No, I really hope listeners do go sign up.
And I hope I see many of you there.
Yes. Yeah, again, I couldn't recommend it wholeheartedly enough. I may well even join you myself.
You should. You must. It's amazing. It really is.
And it's such a wonderful thing for you to be doing as well. I think, again, talking about creating with those circumstances, I think it's easy to think that needs to be, I guess, self-centered, as in, oh, great, in these times I can create in a way that brings me more money or something. Whereas the example you've given with that is, again, that kind of the highest good is the highest good of all, actually.
Well, that's right. It is true. And but really, to be honest, when the pandemic struck, it just occurred to me I had to do something. I just got it. And so what can I do? I can give as many as people as is possible for me to do. Just give them the understanding, the tools, the belief that they are not victims of what is occurring now. they, they even with this going on, they can be the predominant creative force in their own life. And that's what I want for people, because a wonderful thing, right? But as you said, it's a benefit to everything, right? If one person benefits egoically, most probably it's a cost to everything else, But if one person benefits creatively, it's a benefit to all of existence. It's true.
Yeah. Wow. What a lovely note to end it on. Thank you so much, William.
Thank you. Thanks. Always great to chat,
Yeah. I think we'll probably have to do a part 3 at some point, but I'll let you get your next course out.
I hope the next time I come on, my glasses don't even look smaller on my face.
Back to Elton John.
I just be little.
Thank you. Oh, wow. What a show. Here are my best bits. Our life indicates where our focus is. But if it isn't where we think we've been focused, it's because our subconscious focus is really on lack and fear. Once we're focusing on a heart-based vision, fear will still likely chirp up with obstacles. Listening to it and reassuring it works far better than trying to use brute force to shut it up. As powerful creators, we don't need to be victims to circumstances. We can use any and all circumstances to create with. If you'd like to get notes and links for everything we spoke about this week, including William's latest Create Your Destiny course, hop on over to the show notes, and they're at primalhappiness.co/episode 334. And if you are a man who is feeling the call to awakening the wild masculine, go along to primalhappiness.co/WTWM to find out more, to arrange your exploration call with Jonathan, or to claim your space. And if you don't want to miss out on next week's episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your app of choice and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get each episode delivered straight to your device as soon as it's released. Thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. Catch you again next Tuesday.